Hello and welcome to the section on Introduction to PHP. In this section, you will be able to learn about client-server mode, request and response pattern, and get to know the PHP language background. This section focuses more on concepts to help you see the bigger picture of what and why we are using PHP. After this section, you should be able to explain what is PHP and its features and compare PHP with other web languages. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so let's look at the objective of this section and understand topic you will be able to do after this section. First lecture, you will be able to learn about client-server model. Once you understand this concept, then you will be able to draw your own client-server model. And also, you will be able to explain client-server model to anyone. Next is request-response definition. Well, request-response definition is basically a pattern that you have to understand before you understand how PHP works. So this is a very common question that people ask, how the request response work in web. So here we'll understand how request response works, and also you will be able to draw your own request response pattern. This way you will understand the concept well, and also you will be able to explain this concept to anyone. Then you will also learn what is PHP and describe what you can do with PHP. After this lecture, you should be able to explain what is PHP to your friends. Next lecture will be interesting to know how PHP work in a web application. We'll combine all the concepts that we have learned and understand how PHP language is used in the web application. This way you will appreciate the problem that PHP is solving in the web and how PHP can be used in the web applications. Last, you will also be able to see the difference between PHP and other web languages in the market doing the same job. This way you will get to know what are the other languages similar to PHP, and you'll understand why PHP is a neutral and a simple language compared to others. Well, that's all you're going to learn in this section. Let's go into each of the lectures now, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Welcome to the lecture on client-server model. In this lecture, you should be able to understand what is client-server model and how it works. A couple of things that you will learn in this lecture. First, you should be able to define the definition of client-server model. Then you should be able to explain what is client side and server side in general English terms. Then you should be able to draw your own client server model. Okay, so let's look at the lecture objective now. After completing this lecture, you should be able to explain client server model concept. You should be able to explain terms like client side and server side. And also you should be able to draw a simple client server diagram. So we'll go in the details of each of these concepts. Let's take a step back and understand how the client-server model works from the things that we use today. Imagine you are trying to access Facebook from a mobile or from a computer or from an iPad, right? You type in facebook.com, or if you have a mobile app, you try to open it. So all these devices basically connect back to Facebook and they fetch all the details and then show it to us. That's a very simple way of accessing Facebook application. But did you ever wonder what happens at the Facebook side? What's going on at the Facebook side and what kind of things are available at the Facebook? Any guess? Well, Facebook has a server, right? And this server actually holds all the things that you're accessing on the Facebook application. It could be a music file, it could be an information, your post information, it could be a video, it could be an image. All these media files are called as resources on the server. So whenever you're trying to access this application via the Facebook, the server is responding back to you by giving this information back to your devices. So let's use this concept and define a definition for client-server model. Okay, if you strip off the Facebook application, that's the company, and basically if you strip off us, so the communication actually happening between two systems. The left hand side is called as client, the right hand side is called as server. And these two systems basically communicating with each other with a common language. And if it's a web-based application, then there is a web protocol called HTTP, using which they are basically exchanging the information. Okay, so if you have to define a client-server model, here is the definition. Client-server model is an architecture where server holds all the resources like your media files, your videos or your images, and client will access it whenever required. So the request has to come from the client to say that I want to see this. The server takes that request and then send whatever information is requested by the client via the communication protocol. That could be an web protocol, which is an HTTP. So this is a standard definition. If someone asks you what is a client server model, remember this definition. It's an architecture where server holds all the resources and client will access it whenever required. So in the client server model, server holds all the resource and client will make a request to get those resources. It's as simple as that. Keep it in a very simple terms when you explain about client server model. Okay, so let's move on. So let's look at the two terminology that we use in describing this model. One is client side and one is server side. So from the definition here, the client side is basically all the left hand side, could be your computer, your iPad, your phone, your laptop, is called as client side because he is the one who is requesting the information. And right hand side is a server side which has all the resources and it's basically taking the request and giving us all the information that we have requested for, right? So that's basically your client side and server side terminology. So if you have to explain to someone what is client side, what is server side, you can use a simple definition. Client side will make the request to access the resource, saying that, hey, I need these files, can you give it to me? Then server side actually accepts that request and provide the resource back to the client. Okay, so remember this definition, and I give you one tip. If you want to remember this, always use this in your terminology. So when you talk to someone, when you're explaining this concept, use client side and server side instead of saying client and server and browser and iPhone or PC. Don't use those words. You can combine all those concepts into simple terms, which is called as client side and server side. Okay, let's move on. So here is one simple exercise that I want you to do. Take a paper and draw a simple client server model with whatever we have discussed so far. Draw a very simple one. I'm not looking for a complex. Draw a simple client server model based on whatever you have understand till now. Then I'll show you my diagram and the right diagram that you have to use for client server model. So before that, I want you to think through what concepts you have understand and put down on a paper all those concepts. Okay, so pause the video now and I'll see you after a second. Okay, how did it go? So whatever is your diagram, if you have understand the concept clearly, then you should be drawing something like this. So you have different clients and then you have a server on the right hand side. The clients are making requests to the server to fetch the informations. So this is a simple definition I want you to remember. Client server model is an architecture where server holds all the resources and client will access it whenever required. Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's do the summary. So by now you should be able to explain client server model concept to anyone and also explain terms like client side and server side. And also you should be able to draw a client server diagram. Okay, that's all for this lecture. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to the lecture on request response pattern. So in this lecture, we will do the same thing that we have done previously. We will try to understand request response pattern, and then we'll also define one standard definition how to explain request response pattern. After that, I'll show you in the real world how a request response happens from a web browser to a server. After that, we will do a simple exercise of drawing our own request response pattern. Okay, so let's move on and understand the objective. So this is the objective of this lecture. First, we'll explain request response pattern. You should be able to define this in your own words. I'll give you a standard definition. If you remember it, if you understand the concept, you should be able to explain in your own words. Then you'll understand the concept with a real world example. I'll show you how in the real world the request response happen from a client side to a server side. Then you should be able to draw a simple request response diagram based on whatever understanding that you have done. Okay, so let's move on and understand what is request response pattern. Let's take a step back and understand in real world how this request response happens. So imagine a scenario where you're trying to dial to your phone. First thing, you will pick up your phone and you'll dial the number and you'll call your friend. The friend will answer your phone and then you initiate the communication of talking to your friend. So this type of communication or pattern is called as synchronous communication, wherein you're calling your friend and your friend is answering your call. This is also called as two-way communication because it's a synchronous communication and the friend is also available talking to you at the same time. It's also called as two-way communication. Okay, so let's define with these concepts what is called as request response pattern. Okay, so let's define the same concept, synchronous communication and two-way communication in internet. At the client side, I have a browser. At web server, I have server which have all the resource. So in the request response pattern, the first request is initiated by the client. The client will request to say, okay, I need these files. The web server will give a response saying that, okay, these are all the files that you requested, here it is. And this pattern is basically called as request response pattern. Well, here's a standard definition. In web environment, client, the browser, sends the request to the server, and server, which is nothing but a machine, gives a resource as a response. Okay, so this is how the two communication happen between two systems. One is called as client, who's requesting. One is called as server, who is responding to that request. Okay, so let's continue and see this example in the real world. Let's do a quick demo on understanding how the request response happen in a real world. So I have the two servers here. The left hand side is basically a client. The right hand side is a server. So let's understand how the request response happen via a web browser to a server. So on the right hand side, as I told you, I have a Tomcat server. This is a web server. And on this Tomcat server, I have a folder called PHP training. And I have two resources. One is an HTML file and one is an image of a dog. So now the client want to access this resource on the server. Okay. So what happens is the request is initiated by the client. That's what we are saying. So the thing is, you need to know where this server is accessible, right? So there's an IP address. So I'll type in the IP address and then I will type in the folder name. And once the folder name, then I'll say I need index.html file. Okay. So when I click it, so the request will go to this server. Tomcat server will say, okay, you need these two files. The two files will be given back to the client and the client will able to display that output. Okay. So we're going to see that. So when I click enter, okay, so you see there is some text and there is an image here. This is basically coming up from this server. So this server is web server. This is a client. And if you have to see more in detail, you zoom this. Okay, so that way is basically showing you how the request response happen from client to server. Okay, so if you don't have access to the server, obviously if you're trying to access yahoo.com, you don't know what's happening at Yahoo. But from the browser, you can even check this transaction, how the request response is happening from the browser. For that, right click on the web page, say inspect. Then you'll go to network tab. Okay, refresh the page. So when you refresh the page, you should be able to see the index.html and dog1.jpg. And if you click on the page, you should see something interesting happening here. There's basically a request header and a response header. And you see there's a request that has been sent to this file. And then there is a response that is coming up from the server. So you see there's a request response happening from the client to the server. So if I refresh and click this again, you should see there's a request response keep happening between the two servers. So this is the pattern that I want you to remember, that there is a request that has been sent from the client side to the server side, and server side will give you a response of whatever resources that we are asking for. This is very important to understand how PHP works. So when we try to bring all these concepts together, then you'll see how the PHP application is used in the web-based applications. Okay, so let's go back and draw a simple diagram of how a request response works. Okay, so that was a simple example and a real world example of how request response works. Next, let's do a simple exercise. I want you to draw a simple request and response pattern on a paper. This way, whatever understanding that you have, you will come to know whether it's correct or it's wrong. So I highly recommend you do this exercise, show how to draw a request response pattern. Okay, so you can pause this video, then come back here and again play this video. So how did it go? Did you manage to draw the simple request and response pattern? So here is a simple request response pattern looks like. You have a web browser. Web browser is sending a request to the web server, and web server is basically having an HTML file. That's what we have seen. The HTML file is given back to the web browser by the web server, which is called as response. So don't forget the definition. If someone asks you what is a request response pattern, give this definition to them. A web browser sends the request to the web server to access the HTML page, and web server sends the HTML page to the web browser as a response. Okay, this is a standard definition. If you're going to an interview, or you're going to write a written test, or you're going to explain this to someone else, please use this definition and help them understand, to show how you understand this concept very well. Okay, so let's move on. So here's a summary of request response pattern. By now you should be able to explain request response pattern. You will be able to understand the concept with real world example. Whatever exercise we have done, you can even go ahead and do that on the Chrome by accessing a web application. You should be now able to draw a simple request response diagram. Okay, so that's all for this lecture. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to the lecture on what is PHP. In this lecture, we'll understand PHP and what are its benefits and features. Then we'll understand how PHP will work in a web application. Okay, so let's jump into the topic. So here are the lecture objectives. After completing this lecture, you should be able to explain what is PHP. So we'll understand what you can do with PHP with the concepts that we have previously seen, like client-server model and request and response. This way you'll be able to appreciate what problem that PHP is solving in the web application. Okay, so let's move on to the topic. Before we look at what is PHP, let's take a moment to understand how the logo looks like. So on the left hand side is the official logo of PHP. This is how it looks like. On the right hand side there will be an unofficial logo which looks like an elephant. So there will be times where you'll see the elephant logo showing up with PHP. This is not an official one, but quite famous around the PHP community. If you want to access the PHP manual, that's basically all the documentation of PHP, go to www.php.net. This is where you can find all the libraries and all the manual of PHP. If you want to find what are the latest updates on PHP, you can go to this site. Okay, remember the logo, don't get confused when you see the elephant logo in the PHP. Okay, so let's look at what is PHP. PHP is an acronym for PHP Hypertext Preprocessor. Okay, this is basically a preprocessor for the text that is being exchanged over the internet. That's why it's called as hypertext. PHP is a server-side scripting, which means PHP runs on server side. So we know what is client side and server side. So PHP language runs on server side. That's why it's called as server-side scripting language. PHP is an interpreted language. You have a compiler, you have an interpreter. Before you run the program, you have to compile the program. That's basically the compiler language. Interpreter is interpreted whenever you access it. It's not compiled in the background and ready to use, but it is interpreted every time. That's basically called from the source side. Okay, so when you run a PHP program, the program is interpreted into the whatever output that PHP is to give at the runtime itself. Next is PHP is basically used to create dynamic content. Dynamic content means a content on the fly, and on the fly in the sense whenever it's required, that's data has been fetched from somewhere. That's basically could be a database or could be a file, and then sent back to the client side. So that's basically the power of PHP comes in, which it can do at the server side. Instead of just showing a static data like an image, it could also pull a data from a database and generate the data on the fly and give it to the client side. PHP code is embedded in the HTML page which runs on the server. PHP is very easy to use. You just have to embed into HTML page. You don't have to really write a big method to generate an PHP. It's very simple. If you know HTML, it's just a piece of line of code that you embed in the HTML and it's ready to run. So that's basically a summary of what is PHP. So you can combine all of this topic when you want to explain to someone. Let's say someone asks you what is PHP. You can say PHP is a server-side interpreted language which is used to create dynamic content and which can be embedded in the HTML page. So it basically covers all these topics. It has different purpose, but it actually covers everything in the definition that you are saying. So include this in your definitions. Tell them it is a server side and also it is an interpreted language. So when someone asks you what is an interpreted language and what is a compiler, interpreted language is the one that executes whenever the request has been done. The compiler is basically you have to pre-compile before it actually runs. dynamic content, and also it is easy to embed in the HTML page. Okay, so next let's understand what we can do with PHP. Okay, a PHP can read data from a form submitted from the HTML page. So you have been submitting all these forms on the web, like a student application, employee application, could be your creation of login details and all those things. That is a form on your client side. When you submit that form and click on submit button from the client side, the request will go to the server side. At the server side, there will be a PHP script which can read all the data from the form that is been submitted from the HTML page. Okay, you can read, save, update and delete data from the database using the PHP code. You can even send emails from PHP. If there are cookies that is been set onto the client side, you can even set a cookie, you can accept a cookie, you can read a cookie, you can delete a cookie. You can also do the tracking of the user via the session management. This is similar to when you're trying to buy something on the Amazon, right? You try to click a product and say add to cart, then you go for shopping and come back to your cart, your item is there. That's basically session management. So it will help you remember what you're trying to do on the web page, and then it will track down all these details with something called as session management. It also help you to restrict user to access some pages on your website. Let's say your website have an admin dashboard or a normal user dashboard. You can restrict the admin dashboard with some of the roles, and also restrict some of the parts of the admin dashboard with a different roles altogether. Okay, that's all possible with the PHP. Well, there are many other backend transactions that you can do at the server side. As when we go into the lecture, we'll try to understand it, but this is very core about what PHP can do in the web application. It can read the data that has been sent from the client side, access the database, play around with cookies, creating, deleting, track the sessions, and you can do some kind of security on the web page as well. Okay, so remember this, what you can do with PHP. This is a very common question being asked. The first question they will ask you, what is PHP? The second is what you can do with PHP. So try to remember all those points that I've given and try to incorporate them in your definitions. So what we have learned by now, you should be able to explain what is PHP and also describe what you can do with PHP. So that's all for this lecture, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to the lecture on how PHP works. Let's understand how PHP works in a web application and what role it plays in this web application. We'll relate back to concepts that we have learned like client-server model, request response, and then we'll try to use those terminologies to explain how PHP works. Okay, so let's move on. So after completing this lecture, you should be able to explain how PHP works in the web. This is a very important topic that you need to learn, because if you cannot explain how PHP works, then the point of understanding PHP is gone. So conceptually, you should know how PHP works and also what job it does in the whole web application. Okay, so let's move on and understand this in the next topic. So we have seen this definition wherein the web browser will send a request and then the web server will access that file and post that response. This we have understood in the request response pattern. So let's elaborate this and understand how the PHP will come in picture and help this whole scenario. So if you see on the right hand side in the diagram, I have embedded the PHP code here. So whenever a web browser is requesting for a PHP code, whatever code it is, okay, we haven't gone through the PHP details, but imagine it's a PHP code. So web browser is requesting for that PHP code. He will send the request to the web server. The web server will execute this PHP code, generate the HTML file, whatever the content of the file is, and then that content is basically pushed back as a response to the web browser. However, we haven't discussed about the file names and all those things, but the web browser only understands HTML. It doesn't understand what is PHP. So if you give the PHP to execute to the web browser, it doesn't really understand it, because PHP is a server-side code and PHP is interpreted by the server and convert it into an HTML code. Whatever code it is that you write in the PHP code is converted into HTML, and that HTML content is given to the web browser so that web browser can display onto the browser. Okay, so couple of things that you have to understand here how PHP works. The PHP code executes on the server. That's the point number one. Whenever the PHP code is executed onto the web server, the converted code is an HTML code, and the HTML code is given back to the web browser so that web browser can display that code. And the role of PHP here is basically to connect to a database. That's basically the main role, and fetch the data from the database or access a file, or does all the things that we have learned for the PHP, like accepting the cookies, maintaining the session management, doing the security, sending emails. All this is done from the PHP code itself. Okay, so that's the purpose of having a PHP code sitting at the web server and doing all those transactions. So a proper definition of how PHP works we can explain like this. A web browser requests the PHP file, and the web server will execute the PHP code and generates the HTML file content, and then it sends that content to the web browser, and then web browser will able to print the HTML code. So one question that you can think is, what if there is no conversion of PHP code into an HTML code? What if web server just give the PHP code to the web browser? What happens at the web browser? The web browser will print the PHP code. It doesn't understand how to interpret it, so it will just show the PHP code. The interpretation of PHP code to HTML code happens at the web server. So remember this definition, remember this concept, how PHP works. It's very, very important. When you start writing the code, when you understand these concepts, it is easy to relate back how things are magically happening on the web browser. Because when you try to access a PHP code from a web browser, you won't see a PHP code, but you'll see an HTML code. The reason behind is because of this concept. Okay, so I'll leave you with this definition. Remember it, by heart it, whatever it is which means comfortable to you, but make sure you are able to explain this definition to anyone who asks you how PHP works in the web. Okay, so let's move on. To summarize, by now you should be able to explain how PHP works in the web. Try to explain to your friends and see whether they can understand this concept or not. Okay, so when we start writing the PHP program, you will see how this works in the real time. So that's all for this lecture, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to the lecture on Compare PHP. In this lecture, we'll compare PHP with other web-based programming language. Okay, so let's look into the section. So here is the lecture objective. After completing this lecture, you will be able to compare PHP with other web programming language. Okay, so let's look at the differences now. So on the left hand side, you have the PHP web programming language. By now you should be able to know what is PHP, what PHP can do, and how PHP actually works in the web. So there are other languages like PHP which can actually does the same job that PHP is doing. Well, to simplify what PHP can do, PHP can talk to a database, and PHP can access any files. It can generate dynamic data on the fly, and PHP typically runs at the server interpreting the PHP code into an HTML code. So all these things and many of others like cookies and sessions and security can be done by other web programming languages as well. So you might be confused if you're starting your career and if you're trying to move from other languages to these languages. So I'll give you some fair bit of idea on what other languages are available which is similar to PHP. Well, if that interests you, you are free to jump onto that, but it's important to understand this, because if someone asks you, if you know PHP but how it actually relate back to other languages, you should at least know why you have picked PHP and what benefits do you see from PHP. Okay, so let's look at some famous web-based application that can similar to PHP and does the similar job. The first is ASP.NET. ASP.NET is a language from Microsoft themselves. It's a language from Microsoft and it's heavily built into their environment. It's not very easy to learn. Well, there are so many settings and so much of software that you have to install, make sure it is configured, and you have to understand a lot before you actually write the application. Okay, so one thing to really compare PHP with ASP is it's not really easy to go in and start learning it. Next is Rails. This is basically Ruby on Rails. Ruby is the language, Rails is the framework. So this is not basically a web language, but this is basically something like a framework, right? It does the job very well, but is very tightly engraced into the libraries that it has, and whatever Ruby actually supports as a language, it's only built on that. Okay, so to easily compare PHP with Rails, Rails is basically a library which is sitting on top of Ruby language, and it does the same job of PHP. Comparing Python with PHP, you might have heard of Python. Python is a general purpose language. It's not meant for a web programming language, but it is meant to do many other things like desktop applications, trying to build a complex business logic running at the server. So the main differences between PHP and Python is do more than web programming. It's not focused on web programming, but web programming is just a part of Python. Next is Java. Java is similar flavor like Python. Java, you can do many things. It's difficult to learn all those complex things before you actually come down to web programming, because at PHP the step one is you understand web programming, but in Java you have to understand the language first in order to develop. For that to develop and run, you have to really have those settings ready so that you can actually start using it. It's not simple, it's pretty much complex if you're a newbie into the Java and start writing a web application. And Java is not meant only for web programming. It actually can do many things. You can write desktop applications, you can use to write some complex web services and do many more things there. Well, Perl is mostly famous around the general purpose language again, right? It does the CGI programming and it has some parts of web programming, very old and very matured, I can say. But PHP compared to Perl, I can say PHP has all the best features of Perl and is easy to start with. If you look at the Perl, it's similar to Python and Java, wherein more of the things are evolved from web programming. It doesn't only do web programming, it does many of these scripting languages as well for other general purposes, right? It's not really meant for only to solve one problem in the web. So I believe when you look at PHP actually is focused more on the web programming, and its only job is to do web programming. So you see the way it is been organized is very simple and very straightforward, and when you try to use PHP, it's really simple lines of code that you embed into HTML. Okay, so let's look at some of the characteristics of PHP now. So there are the 5 characteristics of PHP. This is defined by PHP manual themselves. So first is simplicity. When you write PHP, you will really enjoy and you will see how simple it is to write PHP code. Second is efficiency. The short notations that they have, the easy to access some complex objects is really made easy in PHP in the web area. Well, in web application, security is the most important thing. So PHP actually handles security very well. So we'll go in this topic later and we will see how to handle security in PHP. It's very flexible. You can write very flexible PHP code. It not really punish you for missing off some of the things in PHP. It's very a loose typed PHP code, most like an English, right? And it's very easy to write as well. Familiarity, if you are coming up from a Java background, C background, it has some of those flavors already embedded in PHP. So it's easy to pick up if you already know some of the programming language. It doesn't really invent something new. It is follow all these coding practices from C and Java as well. Okay, so let's move on. To summarize, by now you should be able to compare PHP with other web programming language, and make sure you're able to explain them why PHP is better. PHP is a neutral language. Always you can say that. It doesn't add any complexity or it doesn't do anything apart from web programming language. That's an easy win because it's focused more on doing web applications, and it is have all the characteristics that we have discussed, and it actually easy to start with and write many complex code as well. Okay, so that's all for this lecture. I'll see you in the next one. Welcome to the lecture on PHP useful resources. Here I'll show you some of the books that you can purchase and continue your reading on PHP. And also there are some great online resources that you can start reading and use as a reference. And also there are some of my sites which you can also use it as your reference for your learning purpose. So first look at the book. So there are a couple of books here. First is from O'Reilly, is basically learning PHP, MySQL and JavaScript. This basically I can say the master manual. You can refer this and you can find all the references and examples that can improve your language to the next level. Next is Murad's PHP and MySQL. This is my favorite book. If you have to ask me to pick a book, I'll pick this book. And most of my learnings or references that I have to do on in terms of validating some structures and everything, I always go back to this book. This book is really the manual. If you are learning and you want to know something for PHP, this is the best book on the market. Next is PHP programming with MySQL. This also I find very good examples that you can start exercising with. Also the topics that they cover are quite interesting. The next is PHP and MySQL by Larry. This is basically a very famous book around the PHP developers, and it has very easy way to understand PHP. The language Larry speaks is very common in language and it's very easy to understand. So these are my favorite books, and if you have to pick, my choice is Murat's PHP and MySQL, which I prefer to use a lot if I have to do a reference onto the PHP. Welcome to the assignment. I want you to do two things in this assignment. First thing, I want you to figure out why PHP was called as personal homepage. Now PHP is called as PHP Hypertext Preprocessor, but previously it is called as personal homepage. Also, I want you to figure out who is the author of PHP, means who wrote PHP first and why he wrote it and in which year he wrote it. Okay, so I want you to go to the sites that I have shown you and try to figure out the answers for it. So this way you get to know about PHP and you will be able to browse through the site. Okay, so do this assignment. So it's a small tip that you can use to find the questions for this. The first is why PHP was called as personal homepage tool and who developed PHP script. Go to php.net. There's a manual there, and instead of browsing, you can use the search option there. Okay, try to use a search option and try to figure out why PHP was called as personal homepage and who developed it and which year. Try to read some history about PHP. So it's interesting that you will get to know many things, why PHP was developed and what was the purpose of it. Okay, so do this assignment, submit your results. I'll try to verify it and I'll give you my feedback on that. Okay, thank you. So we have reached to the end of this section. Let's do a quick recap. So by now you should be able to explain and understand client server model and answer request response definitions. If someone asks you how request response happens in a real world, you should be able to explain it. You should be able to describe what is PHP language and also explain about how PHP works in a web application. Also, you should be able to differentiate PHP with other languages. Okay, so these are the topics that we have covered in this lecture, and if you're unclear with any of these topics, I highly recommend don't go to next topic. Make sure you understand these topics well, because these are the definitions and the languages we will be using for our next lectures. So make sure you understand this concept well and you are able to explain this to everyone and you know the definitions very well. Then go ahead and move on to the next topics. Till then, have a good time and I'll see you in the next section.